Good morning. Right, I'm going to change things a little bit today because I'm not actually answering anybody's questions. What I am going to do is I'm going to read something to you. I'm going to do just a little bit more to back up what we did with the swing trainers in the last video. And I've got a couple of gadgets, just everyday things that I've found in the last couple of days have been quite helpful to me. And that's based on the fact that I was reading somewhere, we're reading a lot, aren't we? Lots of messages flying around, and I can't remember where I found this now, but apparently some of the greatest inventions have been made during these periods of epidemics, or I don't know whether they had pandemics in the past, but so when people couldn't continue their lives in a normal way, they found they had more time, and some very clever people came up with all sorts of wonderful things. And I think that one of the marvellous things about this period is the time that we've got. I don't think I've had this much time since I was a kid at school in the summer holidays. So let's start with the swing trainers. And you've all seen me use the swing right, sorry, the hole-in-one. So you know about this, and we're going to do something. I'm just going to introduce a couple of new ideas on how to use these. But I also wanted to show you that here we've got the swing caddy, which is longer, far more flexible, much better for women, young people and seniors, because this shaft makes up for the mobility and flexibility that I've lost in my joints. So same thing, different feel, longer, whippier, very good for people with slower club head speeds. But I just wanted to show you this, because before those I used to swing right for many years, first introduced it to me by the inventor Mindy Blake in the late 1960s. And this one, because people often say, well, it's very expensive. Well, it's half the price of some of the drivers, or even less, and they last forever. You don't see many second-hand ones on the market, do you, on eBay? So, and this particular swing right was given to me by a very nice man, Alan Wood, who has been a student of mine for many years. Unfortunately got to an age now when his health doesn't allow him to play anymore, but he gave me this one, and he bought this. He tried to buy the company eventually, but anyway, he bought this one in what's the name of that shop, Lily White's in Piccadilly in central London, very well known sports shop in that era, and he bought that in 1960. Well, it couldn't possibly still be working now 60 years later, could it? By jingo, it does. They don't wear out, fantastic. And it doesn't matter which one you've got, they're all very good. We use the swing impact trainers, like the swing caddy and the hole-in-one, purely because they're a little bit more reliable, because they're not mechanical, because they work with magnets. Okay. Now, also they reset themselves, which is quite useful. Okay, so I want to just go back to this to talk to you about rhythm, and a specific rhythm, because rhythm is one thing, and you can always tell a golfer that's got good rhythm, but I tend to have good rhythm, but I can get out of rhythm, because the rhythm we're looking for, research shows, is something called a 3-to-1 ratio. And what does that mean? And we don't like getting complicated at easier swing, do we? But it's actually quite simple, because it means that my backswing is 3 times longer than my downswing. Okay, so let's see if we can count, and let's see if that works. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There might have been a little pause between the 3 and the 4 there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So use that. Because there's no doubt Tug Wilson was talking about snatching from the top of the backswing. Oh, and as a quick aside, there was a lovely review by Robin C., who's a guy who comes to see me, Robin Church, and his comment was, tug, don't tug. Very simple. And lots of lovely comments, worth reading through them. You're all being very inventive, very creative, and there's often a sense of humour, which I love. So, just to show you that again, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I know that I hit the ball further when I'm slower in my backswing, because if I hit it further, I tend to speed everything up and then it all gets away from me. So, a couple of gadgets to show you. Let's just move on to that. And I've got, in my house I've got a carpet, and then I've got wooden floor. And there's like a carpet stopper that's just a little bit of raised wood. And I stand on that line because it's just the right place. It's too small an area for me to film, unfortunately, from there. But I'm standing on that line, I'm feeling something in my feet. So I'm just going to put that down now. I'm going to put it down there. And you'll see that I'm now standing on it. Is that in shot? Just put it there to make sure it is. Okay, so it's right under the arches of my feet. And when I go to the top of my backswing, I can feel that things have changed. The weight's now towards my heel, and then when I finish my swing, it's again on the other heel. And of course it has to be on my heel for me to be balanced. If I get through here and I'm still on my toes, I fall forward, which is what most people do. They lose their balance forward or back, but very rarely lose their balance forward towards the target. So let's just demonstrate that. And I found that this thing under my feet, I could actually feel it. And I could feel heels and toes working. Heels and toes. And balance is one of the most important things for developing a consistent game of golf. Okay, so you could use a bit of wood, you could use a piece of wire, whatever you like. Okay, now another thing I came up with, so I watch YouTube videos on music, and I listen to a lot of music at home. I'm a big music buff, and I picked up I was drinking this water and it emptied, and I was playing some music, and I thought, oh, and I was sort of drumming along with the beat, and of course with a bottle like this you can get it to rebound. Let's just show you that. And I'm gripping it very, very lightly. And if I grip it more tightly, something happens. It changes completely. So when you're gripping your club too tightly, you're throttling the life out of it. So gripping it softly, it comes alive, and your job is to actually make that golf club come alive. It's a living thing that's dynamic. It's not just a lump of metal and graphite. So that's something you can try yourselves. So then the last thing that I want to do today is I just want to read something to you, because I think it's very important. The questions you're asking me, you're asking questions because you're not sure. Now, if you're not sure, then you've got doubt. And what does doubt lead to? Tension. Don't know what I'm doing. Things go wrong. Oh, I haven't got an idea because I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to put it right when it goes wrong. So, and then of course that tension diminishes your ability to play the game, and then you end up with a lack of confidence. So unanswered questions. Hopefully what we're doing here, and this is why it's proving to be so successful, is that you obviously got lots of questions. So this is from Mo Norman, Canadian golfer, passed away in the late 1900s, I think. Was known as one of the best ball strikers ever. Have a look at his record, it's unbelievable. Okay, and he wrote a poem called My Robot. So I'll read that to you first. I have a little robot that goes around with me. I tell it what I'm thinking. I tell it what I see. I tell my little robot all my hopes and fears. It listens and remembers everything it hears. At first my little robot followed my command, but after years of training, it's gotten out of hand. It doesn't care what's right or wrong, or what is false or true, but no matter what I try now, it tells me what to do. Isn't that lovely? It tells me what to do, the value of practice and repetition. Now, I'm not saying you've got to work hard at your game, but you do need to understand and thus be able to do things in a certain way and do it more often. And then that becomes a habit, and then you don't have to think anymore. The objective is to play golf without thinking. So just some comments that I wrote a while ago when I discovered that poem. Okay, for me he's talking about the inner games Self 1 and Self 2. He spent time learning, then with that learning his inner man, or subconscious as he calls it, knew what to do, so was totally in charge. There was no longer any need to think about what he was doing or how it was to be done. It was all instinctive. The error most of us make is to never shake off the learning process, and therefore never transcend to the world of trusting that we know. This is what he calls playing with the 5.5 inches. These 5.5 inches up here. He said that it wasn't his body that was a champion golfer, it was this bit. Self 1 and Self 2 are the invention of Timothy W. Gallwey in his hugely powerful book, The Inner Game of Tennis, first published in 1974. There was an inner game of golf, inner game of music, inner game of skiing, inner game of just about everything. All valid, but to me his first book had the essence of the Self 1 and Self 2 in a very simple way, and somehow I could understand it more because it was in a sport that I didn't know, which was tennis. Don't play tennis, and it just meant more. Self 1 is the chatterbox calculating conscious mind, whereas Self 2 is the intuitive subconscious mind, which learns quickly, never forgets, and always knows better than Self 1. Although Self 1, the conscious little chap or lady that sits on the shoulder telling you you're useless and why do you bother. So your questions, answering your questions, I believe is helping you to know what to do. Hopefully they're all common sense answers, and the fact that you have a greater knowledge of what you're doing, more meat on the bone so to speak, hopefully it'll all lead you to making those nice dancing type of swings. So hope you enjoyed that. Next time we'll come back to your questions, but I thought that was worth having a chat about. So thanks again for being with me. See you next time.